Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you in this 4th of July week. We're going to have it at the end of the week this year. How many of you are traveling? If you are traveling, or if you're traveling just in the corner, please be careful, everybody. Please be careful. And I hope that you are not just having a joyous holiday, but a thoughtful one. What does American independence mean? What does America mean? Really, what is a republic? What is a democratic form of government? What is a Republican government with, and I mean with a small r, that has democratic aspects? And what do you want now? See, we're at an inflection point. We'll be 250 years past the Declaration of Independence next year. And that puts this empire, and yes, we are one, at an inflection point, and we have to think about that. And maybe that's why we're having this conversation today with Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works, but he wears so many hats, everybody. Let's talk about this big, beautiful bill that has added $1 trillion to the military budget, but has taken $1 trillion from the social safety net. What does that mean? We had Dr. Max Wolf on with us yesterday, a brilliant, noted economist, and he said, well, first of all, what it does mean is that we will have in excess of 50,000 deaths per year, at least, because of these cuts. That might not sound like a whole lot, but we got like 50 states, not including the territories, but let's round that off. That's 1,000 people per state who'll just be dying. That's not including those children who are in foster care, who need Medicaid. They're on Medicaid. Many of them will have reduced benefits, life-saving benefits that will take them out of here. That is real, everybody. And now you're seeing all of this bargaining in the U.S. Senate with Republicans who are doing, and quite frankly, in the lower house, in the U.S. House of Representatives, they're doing what they call carve-outs. So they are able to get exceptions for their districts or states, but the rest of America will suffer. It is really a Faustian bargain that they are making. Instead of standing up for all of America, they're standing up for their jobs. So let's think about that, everybody. Let's talk about what these cuts mean. We are here. We've got this deadline of the 4th of July. Well, it may or may not be go through by that time, but I tell you what, you have at least 8 Republican senators who are holdouts, at least 8. What are they holding out for? Can they stem the tide? Do they even want to? Do you know what's in this big, beautiful bill? Is it big and beautiful, or is it big and awful? Well, Alex Lawson has been telling us that this is big and awful, and we are all going to pay a terribly high price, and with an emphasis on terrible and high and price. Meet Santita Jackson on santitajackson.bsky. I'm on Blue Sky, santitajackson.bsky.social. And I am on, of course, we're streaming on AM 950 Radio, and you can hear us on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I'm at Santita J on Twitter, also known as X. Facebook. Many of you are trying to be my friends there, and I want you to be, but you can only become my friend at the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Please go there. Santita Jackson and Friends, not Santita Jackson. I cannot accept any friends. They're flushing people out, and that is not my intention, but that's how Facebook has set it up. It's terrible. And then, of course, meet Bernadette over here on the YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show. Well, Alex Lawson, Social Security works, and it does work until it's taken apart. What is this big, beautiful bill bringing to us? I feel like the woman in the crowd shouting at, well, not shouting, but certainly she shouted this question to Benjamin Franklin when he walked out of the Constitutional Convention. According to history and legend now, she said, "Sir, what kind of government have you given us?" He said, "A republic, if you can keep it." So what kind of bill have they given us?
Yeah.
Alex Lawson.
I think it's I think your setup, you got it. It's over $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid alone, $1.1 trillion in cuts to healthcare. That's just the healthcare portion. And what that means is it's a total destruction of the Medicaid program as it functions right now. And, I think we do have the number 51,000. That's Yale. It's a great study. 51,000 people a year who will die because of this bill. And, I think that is people under 51,000 is a lot of people. And that is the people who die, right? So if 51,000 people die, then you're talking about a much larger number of people who are harmed. And maybe they don't just die that year, but they're going to die the next year. Because remember who we're talking about here. Like, let's just say what the Republicans are, wheeling and dealing and buying each other off with the grossest of bribes. It is killing the most vulnerable people in our society, literally the oldest of the old, people with disabilities, people in nursing homes. 1 in 4 nursing homes will close because of this bill. 1 in 4 nursing homes will close. Just how is a system supposed to function with only 75% of the already far too low capacity? And the answer is it won't. So your nursing home that your loved one needs, and I hope that people don't have to deal with this in most cases, but those millions of people who do have to deal with this know that already the situation when a family member needs Alzheimer's memory care or 24-hour care of any sort, it is a disaster. If you aren't basically spending a full-time job ensuring that your loved one gets the care that they need, the risk is that right now, they fall into basically a death trap warehouse of a nursing home owned by private equity that's aimed at making profit, not delivering care. That's right now. And then 1 in 4 nursing homes is going to close. Where do you think people will go?
Where will they go?
Into the other nursing homes, which will then be even worse. So quality of care goes down, or they'll go into their family members' homes who are not at all set up to provide skilled nursing care. So what happens? They die. Those are the 51,000 people who die. The oldest of the old, the 104-year-olds, right? They're going to die. That's who we're talking about in nursing homes. And that's just the nursing home part. Let's talk about the fact it's a nursing home apocalypse. I published a piece in Common Dreams yesterday about the nursing home apocalypse, because that is what it is. People don't have an example for them to actually understand what eliminating a quarter of a system, the long-term care system, will look and feel like to them. Same thing with hospitals. Americans don't understand that this 4th of July, what the president is trying to deliver to them with fireworks and celebration, like literally picture a bunch of billionaires celebrating, throwing 17 million people off of their health care to give tax handouts to those billionaires, trillions in tax handouts to those billionaires. Waving the American flag. I mean, come on. But it is your setup. Like, what kind of America are we building right now? Well, it's definitely not a representative democracy, right? I mean, like, if it was a representative democracy, then the will of the 17 million who are going to be thrown off, the will of the 51,000, which is still more than the billionaires who are going to get all the money, right, would be expressed through the government. But this is right now what we're seeing is the grossest rule by the richest, which shouldn't surprise us when the Republicans are in office. But, they try to pretend they're like, oh, we're for the people. Come on, man. Who was sitting behind Donald Trump at his inauguration, right? Was it a bunch of working class folks who build things? Was it? No, of course not. It was billionaires, the richest people in the world. This is their Washington, D.C. right now. So the bill looks like it is going to pass out of the Senate, reporting right now that they do have the deal. But you laid it out. How did they get the deal? They bribed people. They crossed their palms with gold, but and in some cases it is literal money, because we're focused on one aspect of it. But remember, when something this big is moving, like down at the chum in the waters is enough to make people go from nothing to some of the richest people in the country, right? The corruption at that level with the contracts and payoffs, and we're not even going to know about that stuff until later, and then we'll be like, wow, the corruption. But what they're buying people off with, and really process this, is they're saying, Lisa Murkowski, other holdouts, if you give us your vote, we will exempt your state from the effects of this bill, right? They know it's evil and perpetrates violence on people. And so they're trying to buy votes by saying, we'll treat people in Alaska differently than everybody else in the country. I mean, it was an amazing thing to see that in action, where they wrote in, Hawaii got a little bit of a payoff because the way they could try to sneak it in was saying the contiguous states were different than the non-contiguous states, and so would be treated differently in terms of how many people would lose their health care. So this process has been so incredibly gross. And, if people are really wanting to see, I think, a real great timeline of it, if you go to Senator Jeff Merkley's Twitter and you just read his Twitter, he's the ranking member on budget, and he's listed all of these amendments that happened over the past 24 hours with Votorama, which is the silliest, stupidest process. It is so ridiculous that this is how laws are made. Imagine if Schoolhouse Rock incorporated this in. Right. And then the senators pull an all-nighter and they just throw everything they can at it, and they try to exhaust. Right. I mean, it's a ridiculous process, but it is what we've got. And the Democrats put in amendments that said, let's protect people on Medicaid, and the Republicans voted those down. They were given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to say, no, we're not cutting Medicaid. Because remember, this is all predicated on the president's lie that he's not cutting Medicaid. It's $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, and the president will celebrate this as, and we didn't cut Medicaid. And the press just let him say that. No one is like, sir, you're lying to the American people. It's $1 trillion in cuts.
But hold that thought, because he sold this not just to the people who voted for him, because everybody keeps talking about the base, and I'm wearying of that, because no, I am tired of it. I'm weary of it, because he's the president of the United States now. Okay, so I did not vote for him, but he is my president. I don't have to, and that's it. So I need him to do things that work for everybody. Now I'm finding, if social media can be any gauge, a lot of people who supported him are very upset, because they are saying, well, hey, a minute. I did not know. Well, first of all, you're now cutting me. You didn't say you were going to do that. You said you were going to cut the price of eggs. You said you were going to make America more affordable again. Okay. But that's not what's happening. But the corporate media, Alex Lawson, executive director of Social Security Works, to me, they've been complicit. Absolutely. They have not asked him, and I need you to go into this, as he's walking to that helicopter, as he's walking to that plane, as he's giving these impromptu press conferences. No one is asking him, hey, what about the $1 trillion in cuts to the social safety net and the $1 trillion you've added to the military budget?
Right.
Talk to me. How does that work?
What I will say is that the corporate media is absolutely complicit and corrupt. And And, you know, they have been forever. And so people are not informed about what's going on. I will also say that people just tune out because they know it, you know. And so what we see is, and this is, you know, public opinion poll after public opinion poll, this bill is deeply unpopular. And that's what the Republican negotiations are all about. You know, it's Murkowski being like, I'm going to lose if I vote for this thing. And they're like, come on. That's the whole negotiation. They don't care. I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions here, but they don't care about the people who are going to be killed or harmed with their votes. They care about themselves and their elections. And the Republicans know that this thing is walking the plank because they don't have the platform that Donald Trump has to just be like, it's there, we're not cutting Medicaid. I personally went and got Miller Meeks on camera and was like, what's your answer to the fact that you're cutting Medicaid and you're going to close all the rural hospitals in your district? And she just, you know, tried to walk away. But the video is amazing. She won't answer me, but then she gets to the elevator and she's just pushing the button over and over again. And I'm like, it's not hard. The media doesn't like, oh man, I forgot to ask them about Medicaid, right? Like, that's not what's going on. They know what they're doing. They, you know, the best you can say for them is that they're covering drama. But the worst that you can say is that this is billionaire owned media telling the billionaire story. And they want this because they get the money, right? The tax handouts are to the billionaires. So people don't know what's in here. When they learn what's in here, it's deeply unpopular. Many, and you know this, and it's sad, but millions of Americans are going to learn about this bill literally when the real world consequence hits them in the face, right? When they drive to a hospital during an emergency and find that hospital no longer exists. And they didn't even know, right? They go to a hospital and it no longer has a maternity ward, right? Which is if the hospital doesn't close, the first thing that goes is the maternity ward. And they're like, it's just about cost and expense, as always. Mm-hmm. So if you think of, you know, like birthing mother as, you know, they're incredibly strong, but that is medically one of the most vulnerable portions of a person's life. Like, mm-hmm. the risk of death at that time is extremely high. Right. And our maternal mortality in this country is already abysmal. And it, you know, tracks in this is another structural violence with institutional racism, where you have the maternal mortality rates in Black and brown communities astronomically higher. The reason, again, is because of resources. So it's because it's very expensive. So the first place you go when you lose this Medicaid funding, which specifically covers birthing mothers, you know, birth, because of the expense, you get rid of that. So maternity centers out, level 1 trauma centers, right? So like the thing that most people think of hospitals as, right? Like you get in a car accident and you get helevaced in you know, the life-threatening danger, and that level 1 trauma center, those also go away. So you're left with these shells of hospitals, if you're left with anything at all. In Representative Miller Meeks in Iowa, 1st Congressional District, which, by the way, is also Senator Joni Ernst, right? Who, when she was asked about this, she just said, oh yeah, well, everybody dies. And you're like, yeah, but not everyone's killed by their senator voting to give tax handouts to billionaires. But again, the corporate media, the facts aren't out there. I'll say a couple weeks ago, you know, we got a briefing on the polling, and it was 3/4 of the American people. This was Senator Warren made this her entire case. Like, you don't have to come up with tricky messaging or like, you know, the big, stupid, ugly bill. And there's a ton of time on social media spent like, oh, if we just got the message and no, just tell people what's in the bill. over and over and over and over and over and over again, because the problem is just that people don't know about it. And I think it was New York Times, or a poll was released that Sam Stein tweeted about, that pointed out, he said bad news for Democrats. I don't know if that's true. It's that only half of the American people know what's in the bill. I actually think, depending on how you're doing it, it's bad news for the American people, but it's politically bad news for the Republicans, because what we've seen is, as people learn about it, they hate this bill. So people are going to learn about this bill after it passes. And you've got that story told by Jeff Merkley on, and I'm sure this is going to be happening in ads and all around, the political cost to the Republicans is going to be enormous. And that's what they're concerned with. Again, they don't care about you. They just want to know, how can I vote for this so that Donald Trump doesn't attack me and not lose my job? And that's what they're all trying to figure out. And the calculus is, who are they more afraid of, their constituents or the president and, his goon squad?
Well, who are they more afraid of then?
I think the president and his goon squad right now. I mean, you're going to watch it go out of the Senate, which means, take Josh Hawley as this is a guy who soaked up all this good press. None from me, because I've seen this one before, because he's like, hey, you're going to kill all of the people in my state and there's going to be no more rural hospitals. And you're like, that is true. And then he's like, so I can't vote for this. And then, showing the spine of a slug, he's like, oh, actually, I'm going to vote for it. Nothing was changed. Nothing. It's not like they fixed his concerns. He said, rural hospitals are going to collapse. My people in my state will die. And he's like, all right, well, I'll vote for it because I'm more worried about Donald Trump and his MAGA base being mean to me on social media than I am for standing up for the thousands of people in Missouri who will die because of this bill, and the millions more who will be harmed. And I want that to be sort of the theme, Santita, of our discussion today, because when there's these numbers, right, 51,000 people die, 17 million people lose their health care, there's a thing in our brains that says oh, well, I just don't want to be one of them, right? If I can just not be the 51,000, then I'll be fine. And you're like, no, you have to understand the reason 51,000 people die is because we've demolished the whole system. Quality of care for everyone just diminishes massively because we eliminate Medicaid. That's just one part of what we're doing, right? And let's put the other biblically cruel thing. So you're ripping healthcare away from people, and then they're stealing food off of the plates of the hungry, right? They're eliminating food assistance, all so that they can give trillions in tax handouts to billionaires. But the whole system, everybody's, unless you're a billionaire who can take a helicopter to whatever best hospital is available and have the time and right to research that, unless you're a billionaire, your healthcare quality plummets because of this bill. It plummets for everybody. It plummets for Black and brown communities more. It plummets for rural communities more. And the deaths and it plummets for people with complex health conditions, right? So children, disabled children and adults, people who need 24-hour care or have complex conditions, they're killed first. And that's why you see in the protests, as I know we've talked about, the people who have been shutting down the Senate, it's people with disabilities. You saw people in wheelchairs and motorized wheelchairs zip tied by the police as they raised their voices saying, don't kill us. And if you talk to them, which, these millionaire senators never will, they're not, they know exactly what will happen. Without Medicaid, they won't have the support to not be institutionalized in a nursing home, which is going to be devastated by those same cuts, and then they will die.
But
So
let me
they're not.
ask this. Is that what it's going? I hate to put this out here, but I have to ask you the question. Is that what it's going to take for people to understand what this is? Because I listen to different talk shows, and they will say, well, they don't believe what you're saying, Alex.
I know.
They don't believe it. They're saying people are not going to die. You don't understand. I mean, and then if you go on social media, you see, oh, okay, if you make $100,000 or more, you're going to get a little bit of relief. No, even though many people who make $100,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck, but I'm not digressing. That's real. So you got to help me to understand if it's going to take 51,000 deaths and then multiple numbers more near deaths.
Yep.
A lot of discomfort for people to get it. I mean, because help me to understand, what are people going to see? What are people going to see?
Effects will come in quickly. We have to wait and see the final version to see how quickly, but you can't expect an industry to see the writing on the wall that they will, right? A hospital in many towns and counties in this country, the hospital is not just the place that people, get emergency care. It's also one of the largest employers in all over the place, right? So most of these hospitals are not individual businesses. They're part of a larger system. And the hospitals that will close are already in like their books. They're seen as the bad ones, right? They sort of, they hold up the ones that are quote unquote not profitable. But they know that these are the ones that have large levels of uncompensated care. So they're looking at their books. They know what it looks like. Then this bill passes, and that now they know, okay, none of these hospitals can exist with this loss of Medicaid funding. Mm-hmm. You're going to start seeing hospitals close much sooner than the provisions in the law go into effect, because there will be a sort of hot potato aspect to it, right? Like first mover stuff. Those who can figure to the new reality fastest are going to be those who are harmed the least in a business sense. That's why you're seeing, like I look at this and I'm like, killing people for rich people to buy another yacht. That's what should motivate everyone. And I know it does motivate a lot of people, but I also am like, okay, well, even if that doesn't motivate you, come over to meet my buddies at the hospital associations, right? Like oftentimes the largest players in the chambers of commerce, and talk to them, see what they say about this. Cause it's not just me. They'll tell you that this is going to be an apocalypse, a level of an event that people haven't seen before. And I think, in my view, the closest that you could come is the deindustrialization of America, right? So as the American economies all around the country sort of moved from manufacturing into service, a bunch of service is actually, a bunch of the economy is actually delivery of healthcare. Healthcare is an enormous part of the economy. And so when you're removing $1 trillion from it, right? Just remove that from the economy. What it will look like, I think most, is the loss of manufacturing jobs, the deindustrialization. So, and remember what that did. Whole swaths of America are just devastated. So you'll see these hospitals going away and they're never coming back. And when that happens, there's no more jobs there, right? So then more people move away. And this is rural America turning into ghost towns, right? If you don't live in a population center, you're not going to have access to healthcare anymore. That's just going to be the way it is.
Alex, at the same time, you've got foreigners, people who are not American citizens, who are buying up our farmland.
Absolutely. Private equity, whatever, whoever they are, just you have money moving in and buying up.
People moving out.
And people moving out. Exactly. and I don't want to go super historical here, but it's not like this story is new. You can look at what happened in Rome when what happened when the giant imbalance in wealth is the rich senators own everything and the people own nothing.
No. What happened? Please, because what's past is prologue. Tell us what happened.
Yes, I mean it is past is
Generally
prologue.
speaking,
And I can go. You can go time and time and time again, right? You can look. This is when the Roman Republic hits a wobble. Why? Because the rich take too much and they leave nothing for everyone else. You look at what happens when before the French Revolution, right? You look at all of these turning points in history, and the story is oftentimes remarkably the same. When they take everything, when the rich take everything and leave nothing for the people, then the system becomes unstable and sometimes collapses. The Great Depression, which that created Social Security and the U.S. Safety net. So, a system that said we're going to actually have to protect citizens and people in this country, and do that by, redistributing or stopping the upward redistribution of wealth. And so this is a story time and time and time again. I think it is interesting, and maybe the first time, that it's going to be health that it's really people are going to see it most on. Like, people really believe that, if I'm going to go to a hospital, there'll be one for me to go to. And you're like, I mean, why is that the case? That's not, if we don't make that the case, then it's not, it won't be. And so huge swaths of the country will just not have health care, right? Or at least have very limited healthcare options. And that's what leads to death. So people are going to start seeing that quickly. Some of the other ones, obviously, they try to put them after the midterm elections, so that they can say, like, oh, look, it's all overblown. And that does play on the thing you brought up, which it is difficult sometimes being an advocate and watching. I fight to get people healthcare. That's what I fight to get people economic security. But I find myself fighting against people ripping healthcare away or creating economic uncertainty, stealing people's money. And we often win. In fact, we've always won. I've never seen the Republicans get something this big. And it is not something that we have like a recent historical example of. They say it and then we defeat them, right? John McCain's thumbs down, right? And then they go after something smaller. If this thing goes through, I think all those people will learn, like, oh, the reason that you heard about this stuff and then it didn't happen is because we defeated it, right? Like, we beat it. We beat it.
That's right.
And this time, if we don't beat it, then, the consequences are going to be, this thing is massive. It also has been going, like, it got worse into the Senate, and then it got worse as the process went along. So it, in terms of for the people, it went from the House and it was absolute garbage and terrible, kill people. And then the Senate made it worse. And then this last portion where they're haggling and buying votes, it made it worse again.
But wait a minute. Don't you think the Democrats should talk about these carve-outs and buying the vote and the buying of the votes? I mean, I got this text from them yesterday, and I realized this is automated and all of that. But it really, really, I have to tell you, I read it on the air because it bothered me, because it came at 4:30. Now, mind you, this is like the big story in the news cycle right now. They keep trying to put Diddy on top of it. Nobody cares about that. What's going to happen? That's a distraction. Santita, did you see the news? This is from the Democrats. We, the Democrats, are kicking off an all-out organizing blitz this summer, focused on activating supporters like you to be leaders in your community, to hold Trump and Republicans accountable and ensure we are showing up everywhere. We'll be live on YouTube. They did not mention the big beautiful bill. Now, mind you, okay, I hear you all. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. It's automated. But you could have sent out an emergency text and say, you know what? Wait a minute. Topic change. Tonight, we're talking about the big, beautiful bill. We need you to get on the phone and call people in both houses of Congress so that we can stop this bill. The Democrats aren't doing that.
So I will never wait for politicians, right? They're the lagging
Oh my
indicator.
goodness. You sound like my father right now. Stop. I hear
The
you.
people always lead, the politicians follow. But I will also be nice to the Democrats on this time, because I've been in similar fights. I actually think they're doing a good job trying to get this out there. Like the Senate, you have Senator Merkley just like constantly. Senator Murphy from Connecticut, he just keeps putting out, he's getting on TV, and when he does, he just says it in plain English. I mean, I've been there, and I know you have too. I've been there when the establishment Democrats are still trying to hem and haw, and they work from the Republican frame, right? And then try this time they are just being like, this is bad. The Republicans, and part of that. So I think the speed is one of the reasons that we're not seeing a ton, right? Like we'll see it sort of after the things happen, because the Republicans are trying to rush as quickly as possible. But also remember, Donald Trump he literally illegally started a war to change the story, right? Like Donald Trump is actually playing playing his role really well, which is just distracting people from what's going on, in the corporate media and the Diddy trial, and right, that everyone's doing. The whole game is to not let the story get out there that what they're doing is they're going to destroy the hospitals, they're going to destroy the nursing homes, people will die, 17 million people lose health care. Actually, that is getting out there. And it's just, from 2/3 of people didn't know much about this bill to half. That's progress from when Senator Warren said, we need more people to know about it, to now. And I think Democrats, Republicans have it easy. And I don't want to delve into this policy or strategy discussion too deep, but Republican, it's easy to be evil. You know this, Santita. It's easy to be evil because they don't care. They never care at all, right? So they'll blow things up and be like, we don't care. We don't actually care if we, right? The Democrats actually, there is, for many of them, pragmatic solidarity in there. So they do want to actually prevent bad things from happening. So they're trying their hardest to prevent bad things from happening. Many of them are. The reason I say that this way is politically, if you're an elected Democrat, you actually want this thing to cruise through and pass and be as bad as possible, and then run for the rest of your career just being like, did you see what they actually did? Right? So that's how Republicans, or like a nihilist, would play. But the Democrats are actually, trying to stop this thing to prevent the harms. But I do think the messaging apparatus, because it's the political messaging apparatus, is already looking to the midterms, is already cutting the ads, is already building the narrative of like, did you see what these guys did? They're killing people.
But the problem with that is that they're killing people, active tense. It is happening now. You have people on television telling their stories. I've got a child who's got challenges. I've got a child who's differently abled. I've got a child, I've got a husband, I've got a wife, I've got someone for whom I am caring, who, if they cut the Medicare, the Medicaid, which automatically cuts Medicare.
Yeah, both.
That's going to kill somebody.
And I will say, like, we know what we do. We've been driving calls in to the Republicans who supposedly might vote against this bill, and House Republicans. And, we will have campaigns in all of the House districts that are most likely to vote against this bill. we are putting as much pressure, and elected Democrats are doing an okay job of that as well. But there is a lot.
I want more.
More, of course.
Because, and I realize that the people in the streets push the people in the suites. I get that. That having been said, I need more because people need more.
Yeah.
I can't, this is not business as usual. This is death. This is a complete shredding of the social safety net. It's a destruction of the common good. I mean, while we're on the precipice of this big anniversary, you are saying that you love America, but you don't love Americans. Americans are not going to be here, Alex.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. We all want more, just for
because you've been making that point. You have been saying for the longest time, if this happens, you have been beating your head against the wall. Look, and now everything that you've been saying, people thought some might have thought it was hyperbolic, and you're just being over the top. They wouldn't really do this. You've been saying, no, this is the plan. Help me to see what you saw, what you see that many of us did not see and might not see yet.
It's somewhat easy when you live here and do this for a long time because there's not that many ideas. I know that, but it's just true. So like the Republicans always, what they're advancing right now is almost the same as what we defeated in Trump 1.0, which we call Trump Care. And, John Bowser Bauman and I went on tour and we did all these events against the destruction of Medicaid and the Medicare cuts and the nursing home collapse. And we were able to stop it. This time around, we know what they're going to do. The setup is a bit different because you have Donald Trump is in a stronger position. Mainly
in a stronger position. How?
Mainly the Supreme Court. Having the Supreme Court behind him and just delivering him enormous amounts of executive authority really does strengthen his hand in terms of telling the elected Republicans in Congress, like, look, I'm the guy. I'm going to do everything because the Supreme Court just basically said that I could, advance all of these priorities through the power of the presidency alone. And that is a tremendous, I'm not saying that we should think that it's all over. I really am not saying that because it's never over until it's over. Let's look.
You do have these 8 Republican holdouts.
Right. And let's look, like Tom Tillis voted against it. But then what did he have to do? He had to retire from the Senate. He basically is like the path to standing up to Donald Trump is out of being an elected Republican. And then you just have to make a choice. And then he made his choice. He's not Don Bacon, who hasn't said he's definitely going to vote no. But in the House, you have the same thing. This guy's like, look, I'm going to lose because this is what the Republicans are doing. And so I'm not going to run again. He's in Nebraska too, which is a district that is, very likely for Democratic pickup. And I think you do see this, that there's the possibility that if enough of these Republicans, either because they're scared of losing their job or they find some bravery in standing up for the people, I think it's probably more on the cowardice side, but whatever it is, or they're just tired and they want to check out and, go on to the next thing, be a corporate lobbyist. That's what they see that as the end game. They could just resign, and there's a 3-person majority in the House, and you have 2 no's already. So like, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to get it through both chambers, but the president's hand is strengthened. And, I think Thune's no McConnell. McConnell is the best politician that I've ever seen. He used his abilities for evil, but man, did that guy know how to play and get things done.
Hey, you hate the player, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, and it is I think it's
like Nancy Pelosi.
I think it's always a problem when
they're not the same. Wait, everybody, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, even if you objected to Nancy Pelosi, some people object to Hakeem Jeffries. These people are skilled fundraisers. Nobody raised more money for the Democratic Party than Nancy Pelosi.
And also at just machinations to get the votes, right? Like you got to it's all about power and negotiation and the ability to make deals. And McConnell was amazing at it. Thune is showing himself to be good at it. Like I think, and this would be the first test of Senator Thune. And so it is the highest priority for him personally to deliver for Donald Trump, right? And to demonstrate his power. And I think you've seen that he actually is pretty good. He knows, and it's not like he comes out of nowhere. Mike Johnson in the House has a harder job, right? Like there's many more House members than there are senators that you have to make deals with. And the margin is still 3, right? So you have an enormous number of people and you can only lose 3. And right now there's already 2 who are like pretty firm no's and up to 8 who are no's right now. So it's all going to come down to President Trump and his ability to push this through. But up against that is us, the people. And yes, the Democrats and elected Democrats are going to do their part, but really it is us who have to do it. And we have to have a strategy. And I think the strategy is let's get this list of 18 Republicans in the closest districts. Cook, the Cook political report just lists all of them. You can Google it. You can go to socialsecurityworks.org all the time. You can follow us on social. We focus in on those Republicans, and then we just hammer their offices with phone calls, with emails. We do office visits, whatever we can do to ensure that our voices are heard. The end of the Senate is happening literally like right now, but that's just the start of the House. And the House is saying that they're going to move, so fast that they'll actually have it by Friday, by July 4th. But don't buy the hype ever. And remember that going down swinging is the only strategy, right? If you're going to lose a political fight, you want to exact maximum cost from your opponents, maximum cost, both in terms of, pragmatic solidarity, making things less bad, preventing harms to people, but also doing political damage to the people who are pushing this through by getting them on the record, like they did during Votorama, and Senator Merkley is showing on his Twitter. And we can do the same thing. So we know that we need, only to find one more Republican. Let's go to these 18 districts. And just ask them the question, like you said, the corporate media is not doing it. So we've got lists of the actual nursing homes that are going to close in Miller Meek's district, in 3 districts in Iowa, all of which are potentially pickups for the Democrats, right? Like we should go to all of them and stick a camera in their face and make them answer to their constituents. What is your plan for the people who are going to die in your district? What about this hospital and this nursing home? What are you going to tell to the family of the people in this nursing home? And hopefully people in those nursing homes, the families and people in those nursing homes are going to learn that their health is at risk and they're going to become active and part of the story. And then the representatives, the politicians will have to answer to the people who they're going to harm themselves, right? And that's the kind of political pressure that we need to create and the stories that we need to get out there.
We're talking with Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works. He has been fighting for not just Social Security, but for our health care. And it is on the line, everybody. I mean, right now, it is on the line. And I think you make the point, Alex. Um, I've learned from my father, and quite frankly, from the whole movement, from all movements. Movements come from the bottom up. They come
Mhm.
from your street, Main Street, not from Wall Street. That's not, they fight for their interest every day. They have a place, a corridor in Washington that's metaphorical and actual. It's called K Street. That's where the lobbyists are. And everyone gets on the lobbyists, but the lobbyists work for the corporations. You got to start buying stock in these corporations and showing up at their meetings and calling them out. That's what we started doing at Rainbow Push in our Wall Street project, calling them out. Not only do you need to, the lobbyists are employees. You need to start calling these corporations out and finding out who has an interest in taking your health care from you and dislodging your Social Security. I mean, it's so funny to watch, not funny, it's interesting it's telling to watch President Trump and Elon Musk feud now, publicly at least. And you saw on his Truth Social, he said, look, basically, Elon, I'm your daddy. Now, do you want me to put Doge on you? Because you're a billionaire, because I've said you can be a billionaire because you're getting government contracts. You do know this. I'm paraphrasing, but that is what he said. And it was a lengthy post.
That is what he said.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what he said. So, but I think that
But Elon Musk said he's going to primary any House Republican who votes for this bill if it's the last thing he does while he's alive. And I'm like, let's just, you said it, man. You said it.
Who's he going to replace him with? And I'm just saying, to Elon Musk, who is your daddy? Because he forgets he was not elected. Trump was elected. Trump is more popular than he is. He might be, he's tapping into a popular sentiment, but the problem is with Elon Musk is that people don't like him. And if people don't like you, that makes it very difficult for you.
Absolutely. No one likes Elon Musk. That dude is super hateable. He does have a ton of money. And again, so I'm agreeing with you, but also just throwing out there, like when you only have to find one Republican, one, right? And you got Elon Musk there being like, I've got the most money of any person in the world. And I just need to scare one, right? Or what if Elon Musk waits to the last minute and then goes to one of these guys, like some backbencher who you've never heard of.
Absolutely.
And is like, I'll literally give you $10 billion. Like, do you think that person would not change their vote? So the Elon Musk chaos card.
He might do that.
He might do it. Elon Musk, if you're listening, do it. But actually just offer 10 of them $1 billion because be safe. And like that, when there's that much money involved and like this is a billionaire, a very insecure man, and his ego. So yes, Donald Trump definitely sunned Elon Musk in that, and he's like, yeah, I made you. So watching these two slap fight each other is great and does cause chaos. Elon Musk is obviously weaker than the president of the United States of America. When your billions are reliant, as basically, and this is what you're saying, the money class, the billionaire class, they rely on the government. They don't make their billions by like building amazing things, right? They make their money.
Would you repeat that, please?
Yeah, they make their money off the government, right? Off preferential tax treatments of certain types of investments and all of that. That's the game that the rich play. They know that their power comes from government. They upwardly redistribute our dollars into their pockets, right? It's Walmart, the Walton family, the richest family still in the world. They pay their workers, their employees that they call associates, so that they don't have to, right? I mean, this is the whole game, and they're allowed to do it. They give them paperwork on how to apply for public assistance as they pay them starvation wages, right? That's literally our tax dollars going, and it's not the workers' fault. It's the boss's fault. They set up the system to give them all the money. And that's what this is. I have a libertarian leaning friend who, he always is like, taxation is theft. And I'm like, wage theft is theft, my man. Theft is theft. But what I want him to get to is also, it's about distribution. Like, the government is going to tax people. That's just the way it is. What you fight for is that they tax the rich people more than the working people, and that the working people get more from the taxes than the rich people right now. And this bill really just changes that even more. The rich don't pay taxes. The rich get tax handouts. Workers pay taxes and then get their services, the things, stolen out from under them. It's about distribution. Who's paying and who's getting? We want rich people to pay and working people to get. And the reason that they get is because they are the ones who are doing the work. The labor is what creates wealth. We've known that for hundreds of years now. Labor is what creates the wealth. The wealthy, it's a negative. And, Republican President Eisenhower used to, if you want to see some speeches about the disastrous effects of inequality, you should read some of the stuff that guy wrote. Yeah. He knew that when the divide got too great, that's what led to dictatorships, to authoritarian takeovers, right? Like clockwork. And so that if you believe in democracy, if you believe in the experiment of the United States of America, you have to, as a first cause, lessen inequality. Because you can't have massive inequality and democracy on the same game board at the same time. And so that's what, all of this is that fight, Santita, and we've talked about it. So it's really the oldest fight. It's just who benefits from society, the many, the people, or the few, the people who are born into a position of wealth and power, and then use that wealth and power to create more wealth and power. And our experiment, what we've done, you brought up Ben Franklin. I think if you look at the Postal Service, it's one of the best examples of like what is written in the bones of our being, our identity. The privileges of sending for a redress of grievances used to be held basically for the aristocracy, right? So if you were the landed gentry, you could petition the king and be like, hey, this terrible thing has happened. But if you're just a person, you have no recourse, right? Which meant the landed, the billionaire class could hurt you. They could take your stuff, and they're like, what are you going to do about it? Who are you going to talk to? Benjamin Franklin and he had this radical vision that everyone could petition their government for a redress of grievances. And in order to do that, you could send a letter from anywhere in the country, right? And we'd create a postal service that would give people that power. And I think it's like a super beautiful example of what we believe in. And now look at what the billionaires are doing. They're trying to destroy the postal service. That right? I mean, that's it's the same story over and over again. They don't want people to have the ability to have their desires reflected in government. They only want their desires reflected in government, right? They're like, the people are like, well, we want to work and live in peace as much as possible. People not, telling us what to do and free from onerous government coming in, because that is it's there. But what's the most onerous government? It's lethal force, right? It's the ability to take away your life or your liberty. And that's what the billionaires are like. No, government should have, we're going to have a ICE papers, please police force that they're sending U.S. citizens to oubliettes, to gulags in other countries, or mistakenly arresting people. And now you have taking their health away. We're literally going to take your health away so that you're scrambling, so that the people are scrambling. They don't have time. They're afraid. They don't have the ability to organize and demand higher wages. All of that is about creating a powerless mass that this small group of people who have everything can just control to do their bidding. And that's what the fight's about. We're right in the middle of that fight.
Alex Lawson, Social Security works. At the end of the day, do you want to be ruled or do you want to be governed? If you're ruled, you're uneducated, you're not well paid, you're not well fed, you're scrounging for the basics. If you're governed, you're educated. Vocationally and academically, you are able to actualize your dreams and make a decent living and then some. And you also have to give consent to be governed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. No one can just roll in over you. So that's the question. As we move into the 4th of July, what's your final word, Alex Lawson, before we go?
Never give up, mainly because it feels good to fight for what's right. It lets you know that you're on the right track, right? Like you can at least know that you're not the sociopath that wakes up and is like, oh yeah, 17 million people lose their health care, 51,000 people die. At least I've got mine. Don't be that guy. Make a phone call. Call your senators. Call your representative. Call, regardless of if they are a targeted, a potential no vote or not. Just make noise on this and tell your neighbors what's going on. And we really do. So the media is very untrusted. Truth tellers like you are doing an incredible amount of work on this, but we know that it's going to be hearing from trusted neighbors, friends, whatever organizations and networks you're part of, use that to get the truth out there. And it's a simple one. The Republicans are working to steal healthcare from 17 million Americans to give trillions in dollars in tax handouts to a handful of billionaires. And that is deeply un-American. So this 4th of July, have fun, do celebrate, but make part of your celebration the effort, probably not on the 4th, around the 4th, to contact your elected representatives, the politicians who work for you. Make that how you celebrate this country, because they do still work for us. And what we're fighting against is a country where that is no longer the case. So the most American thing you can do on the 4th of July is annoy the stuffing out of these politicians who are trying to hurt us. That's the thing to do.
I haven't heard that one before. Ignore them. I mean, what? Just the stuffing. Take it out of them. And it is stuff that they've got. Alex Lawson, Social Security works. We're going to make this happen because it is not a fait accompli. It is not this. It's not over, everybody. It's not over. And I tell you what, no matter what happens, always remember. That's why Zoran Mamdani's win is so important. They keep telling you that what he is advocating for is impossible. You're already paying for it. You're already paying to subsidize the bus service. It is not privately owned, our public transportation. And and think of Benjamin Franklin. Everybody has got their shortcomings, but think of the great things. I mean, the postal service, the public library. He felt that everyone deserved to have access to books, to information. That was a radical idea 200 years ago. And guess what? It's a radical idea today. And I'm so glad to be on with one of my favorite radicals, Alex Lawson, fighting for you. Social Security works, everybody. I'm Santita Jackson. See you a little bit later on this afternoon. I guess we're talking about the poor. We'll be talking about the revolt of the rich and so many things that'll help us to think about who we are as Americans and get centered on that and fight for it. This country is ours, everybody. The land was made for you and me and you and you and you and you and you and we. How about that? Thank you, Woody Guthrie. Love you so much. I am Santita Jackson, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. God bless you, everybody.